Part 1. The Crystal Hall was enormous, bigger than any building on most planets. It floated in space, orbiting a dead star that glowed with strange colors. Inside the hall, creatures from 247 different worlds sat in their special seats. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked like floating clouds of gas. They all came here to talk, to make deals, and to solve problems. This was the Galactic Council, and today, something was very wrong. Ambassador Tai Yang sat in the human section with his arms crossed. His face showed nothing. He did not smile. He did not frown. He just sat there like a statue. The other ambassadors kept looking at him, waiting for him to speak. He said nothing. Speaker Vrelthos stood at the center of the hall. He was a Kelmorian, which meant he looked like a giant spider with 7 eyes. He had led the council for 80 years, and he had never seen anything like this. The humans were ignoring everyone. Ambassador Tai Yang, Vrelthos said, his voice echoing through the hall. We have sent 47 missions to Earth. Every single one was turned away. Your people will not talk to us. Your colonies will not answer our calls. What is happening? Tai Yang slowly stood up. He was not a tall man, but everyone watched him. Humanity has nothing to say, he said. His voice was cold and flat. We are done talking. The hall exploded with noise. Hundreds of voices speaking in hundreds of languages filled the air. Some were angry. Some were confused. Some were scared. Vrelthos raised his front legs for silence. This is not acceptable, Vrelthos said. You cannot just stop talking. The council needs all members to participate. Why? Tai Yang asked. The question hung in the air like smoke. What has the council done that requires our participation? In 180 years of membership, we have watched this council debate and discuss while wars started and planets burned. You talk about peace but do nothing to create it. A young Pelraxian named Jiwan sat in the observer section. She was a xenoanthropologist, someone who studied alien cultures. She had spent years studying humans, and she thought she understood them. Now she was not so sure. She pulled up her datapad and began reviewing the failed missions. Every mission followed the same pattern. The council ships would arrive at a human world or station. They would request permission to dock and talk. A human voice would respond, always polite, always firm. Your delegation is not welcome at this time. Please leave human space. No explanation, no discussion, just closed doors. One recording showed Admiral Hyojin, the commander of the Human Defense Fleet. She was a woman with sharp eyes and short black hair. We appreciate your visit, she said on the recording, but we must decline your request for diplomatic talks. Goodbye. Then the transmission ended. Jiwan stood up and played the recordings for the council. Look at this, she said. The humans are not hostile. They are not threatening anyone. They are simply refusing to engage. This is something new. In all my years of study, I have never seen a species do this. Vrelthos turned back to Tai Yang. Why? We deserve an explanation. You have treaties with us, you have agreements, you cannot simply walk away. Tai Yang looked around the hall slowly. We have observed this council for 180 years, he said. In that time, the council has resolved 12 major conflicts through diplomacy. That sounds good until you learn that 93 wars happened anyway. The council talked while millions died. You debate, you form committees, you write reports, but you do nothing. That is not fair, another ambassador shouted. The council prevents wars through discussion. No, Tai Yang said. The council delays action until the problem solves itself or becomes too big to solve. We have watched it happen again and again. My government, Minister Dayun specifically, has studied every council action for the past century. Her conclusion is clear. This council wastes time that could save lives. The room fell silent. Nobody knew what to say. The humans had always been reliable members. They sent their ships when asked. They helped with disasters. They traded fairly, but they also asked too many questions and pushed for faster decisions. Now they were done pushing, they were just leaving. So what will you do? Vreltos asked. Will you isolate yourselves? We will manage our own affairs, Taeyang said. Our colonies will function. Our borders will be maintained. Our people will live their lives. We simply will not participate in the theater of galactic diplomacy anymore. It serves no purpose. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the hall. Red lights flashed. Emergency protocols activated. A message appeared on every screen in the chamber. The Rekthul Armada had crossed into Council space. The Rekthul were a military empire that believed in taking what they wanted by force. They had been quiet for years, building their fleet. Now they were attacking. The target was Pelraxian space. The Pelraxians were a peaceful species, known for their art and philosophy. They had colonies near the human border. Those colonies were now under attack. A Pelraxian ambassador ran to Taeyang. You have ships near our colonies, she said, her voice shaking. Your defense fleet patrols that sector. Please help us. We have a mutual defense treaty. You must help. Taeyang looked at her with sad eyes. We have fulfilled every letter of that treaty, he said. We maintain border security. We share sensor data. We offer humanitarian aid for refugees. But military intervention requires council authorization. You must ask the council, not us. But you are here at the council, the Pelraxian said. No, Taeyang said quietly. I am here to tell you we are leaving. Humanity no longer participates in council decisions. We cannot participate in council wars. Jiwan watched as data streamed in from the Pelraxian colonies. Rekthul warships were attacking civilian targets. Cities were burning. People were dying. And human ships, powerful human warships with weapons that could stop this, were sitting at the border doing nothing. She pulled up a transmission from the border. Admiral Hyojin's voice came through. All human vessels maintain position at the border. Monitor the situation. Record all data. Provide humanitarian corridors for refugees. Do not engage the Rekthul fleet. Repeat, do not engage. Vreltos slammed his legs against his platform. This is madness. You would watch allies die rather than break your silence? Taeyang picked up his datapad and began walking toward the exit. This is your war now, he said. The council must decide what to do. We warned you about the Rekthul for 30 years. We proposed 7 different peace treaties. The council rejected them all as too aggressive. Now you have your war. Solve it with your diplomacy. He walked out of the hall. Behind him, chaos erupted as the council realized they were alone. The humans, their strongest military ally, were gone, and a war was starting that the council had no idea how to stop. Captain Jae-hoon stood on the bridge of Outpost Theta 7, staring at the display screens with clenched fists. He had been a soldier for 20 years and he had never felt so helpless. On the screens, Pelraxian ships were dying. Their shields flashed and failed. Their hulls broke apart in the darkness of space. And he could only watch. The outpost was positioned right at the border between human and Pelraxian space. From here, Jae-hoon could see everything. The Rekthul fleet moved like sharks through water, efficient and brutal. They targeted military ships first, then moved on to civilian transports trying to flee. Sir? Said a young officer named Subin. Her voice was shaking. The Pelraxians are sending distress calls directly to us. They are asking for help. Play it, Jae-hoon said, though he did not want to hear it. A voice filled the bridge. It was a Pelraxian ship captain. Human vessels, this is transport ship Morning Light. We have 3,000 civilians on board, mostly children. The Rekthul are closing in. Please, you are right there. We can see your ships on our sensors. Please help us. Subin looked at her captain with tears in her eyes. Sir, we have to do something. We can save them. Our weapons could destroy those Rekthul ships in seconds. Jae-hoon wanted to give the order. Every part of him screamed to fight to save those children. But his orders were clear. We cannot engage, he said. Our orders come from Admiral Hyojin herself. We observe only. We do not participate in council wars. But why? Subin asked. I do not understand. These are innocent people. Jae-hoon turned to face her. His face was hard, but his eyes showed pain. Because for 180 years, humans died in council wars. We went when they called. We fought when they asked. We bled and died while they debated. And when we won their wars for them, They called us too aggressive, too violent, too dangerous. Now they learn what it means to fight without us. On the screens, the Pelraxian transport ship exploded. 3,000 lives gone in a flash of light. Subin turned away and put her hand over her mouth. Other crew members looked down at their stations, unable to watch. Back at the Galactic Council, chaos continued. G1 watched as Ambassador Pelkara, a senior Pelraxian diplomat, confronted Speaker Vrelthos. Pelkara was usually calm and dignified. Now she was shouting. "You must call a vote," Pelkara demanded. "We need council military action. The Rekthul are slaughtering my people." Vrelthos looked tired. "I will call for a vote," he said. "But without human forces, I do not know what we can do." "The council has armies," Pelkara said. "Other species have ships and weapons. Call them to action." The vote was called. Every species was asked if they would commit their military forces to defend Pelraxian space. The results came in slowly. One by one, species voted no or abstained. Some said their fleets were too far away. Others said they needed more time to prepare. Some were honest and said they were afraid. G1 watched the vote with growing horror. She realized something terrible. For almost 2 centuries, the Council had depended on human military power. Humans were always willing to fight. They had the best weapons, the best training, the strongest ships. The Council had used them like a sword, pointing them at problems and letting them solve things with force. But the Council had also criticized humans constantly. Too quick to fight, too ready for violence, too willing to use force instead of diplomacy. The Council took credit for keeping the peace while condemning the methods that actually kept that peace. Now the sword was gone, and the Council was defenseless. The vote failed. No military action would be taken. Pelkara collapsed into her seat, her face in her hands. Her world was dying, and the Council she had trusted for centuries was doing nothing. G1 left the Council chamber and went to find the last human representative still in Council space. Ambassador Taeyang was in his quarters packing his belongings. He was preparing to leave and return to Earth. "Ambassador," G1 said from the doorway, "may I speak with you?" Taeyang looked up. "Of course, though I suspect you want me to change my mind about our withdrawal." "No," G1 said. "I want to understand. I have studied your species for years. I thought I knew how humans think. But this, what you are doing, I do not understand it." Taeyang sat down and gestured for her to sit as well. "What do you want to know?" "Why watch allies die? Why refuse to fight when you have the power to save them?" Taeyang was quiet for a moment. 30 years ago, human diplomats warned the Council about the Rekthul. We said they were building a war fleet. We said they would attack. We proposed 7 different peace treaties with terms that would have prevented this war. The Council rejected every single one. They said we were being paranoid. They said we were trying to create conflicts to justify our military spending. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. We tried to prevent this war for 30 years. The Council would not listen. Now the war is here, and suddenly everyone wants humanity to fix it. But we will not. We are done cleaning up the Council's failures. "But innocent people are dying," G1 said. "Innocent humans died in Council wars for 180 years, Taeyang said. His voice was not angry, just tired. "We fought your wars. We lost our people. And every time the Council told us we were too violent, too quick to use force. You wanted us to be your sword, but you hated us for being sharp. Now you learn what it means to have no sword at all." Before G1 could respond, alarms sounded throughout the station. She pulled up her data pad and her eyes went wide. The Rekthul fleet had changed course. They were heading toward the human border. At Outpost Theta 7, Captain Jae-hoon received an urgent message. Rekthul Commander Vorg had sent a transmission. Jae-hoon played it on the main screen. Commander Vorg was a massive creature covered in armor plating. His voice was deep and confident. "Human vessels, we have watched you sit idle while we conquered Pelraxian space. Your inaction shows weakness. The great human fleet is a myth. You are cowards hiding behind a reputation. To prove this, we will take what we want from your territory." The transmission ended. Jae-hoon immediately contacted Fleet Command. Admiral Hyojin appeared on his screen. She looked calm, but her eyes were cold and hard. "Admiral, the Rekthul are approaching Mining Colony Frontier 12. What are our orders?" Hyojin smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Captain, please open a channel to the Rekthul fleet. Let me speak to them directly." The channel opened. Hyojin's voice went out on all frequencies. Heard by every ship in the sector, both human and alien. Rekthul Fleet, this is Admiral Hyojin of the Human Defense Force. You are approaching human territory. You have 10 seconds to reverse course and leave our space. If you do not comply, your ships will be destroyed. This is your only warning. Commander Vorg laughed on the open channel. You had the power to save the Pelraxians, but did nothing. You are weak. You will not fight, Hyojin began counting. 10, 9, 8. The Rekthul ships did not turn around. They continued toward the mining colony, weapons charging. 7, 6, 5. On Outpost Theta 7, every crew member watched their screens. Subin held her breath. 4, 3, 2, 1. The countdown reached 0. The Rekthul ships were still in human space. Hyojin's next words were ice cold. 0, you had your warning. Fire at will. Part 3, the battle lasted 43 seconds. That was all the time it took for the human fleet to completely destroy the Rekthul raiding force. It was not really a battle at all. It was an execution. Captain Jae-hoon watched from Outpost Theta 7 as human weapons came alive. The ships had been quiet and still, watching the Pelraxian colonies burn without taking action. Now they moved with terrible precision. Missiles appeared on the screens, moving faster than anything the Rekthul had ever seen. These were not normal missiles. They traveled at 80% of light speed. The Rekthul ships tried to dodge, but there was no dodging something that fast. Each missile hit exactly where it was aimed. Electromagnetic pulses cascaded through the Rekthul formation, shutting down their shields before they could even activate properly. Quantum-locked weapons passed through armor like it was not there at all. The Rekthul tried to return fire, but their weapons could not track targets that moved so quickly. After 12 seconds, Commander Vorg tried to surrender. His transmission was desperate. Ceasefire! We surrender! We are leaving your space. Admiral Hyojin's response was broadcast across all channels. You had 10 seconds to leave. You chose to stay. You are now 2 seconds past acceptable. No quarter will be given. The human weapons continued firing. Every shot was perfect. Not a single human missile missed its target. Not a single Rekthul ship escaped. When the 43 seconds ended, there was nothing left but debris and escape pods. Ensign Subin stared at her screen with wide eyes. She had seen combat before, but never anything like this. Sir, she said to Captain Jae-hoon, they never had a chance. We destroyed them completely. Jae-hoon nodded slowly. The Rekthul thought our restraint meant weakness. They thought because we would not fight the Council's wars, we could not fight at all. They learned the difference. What difference? Subin asked. Between will not and cannot, Jae-hoon said. We would not fight for the Council, but we will always fight for ourselves. That is the line. The Rekthul crossed it. On Mining Colony Frontier 12, Colonel Byung-ho finished evacuating the last civilian. The colony had 4,000 miners and their families. When the Rekthul threat appeared, Byung-ho had ordered an immediate evacuation. His ground forces moved with perfect efficiency. Every person was accounted for. Every ship was loaded and sent to safety. By the time the battle started, the colony was empty. Not a single human civilian was in danger. The Rekthul had come to attack a mining colony and found only automated defenses and military personnel ready to leave. A council observer who had been monitoring the situation contacted Byung-ho. Colonel, why did you evacuate so quickly? The Rekthul were still minutes away. You had time to negotiate. Byung-ho looked at the transmission with tired eyes. We do not negotiate with invaders. We evacuate civilians and then we destroy threats. 0 casualties on our side. That is always the goal. But the cost, the observer said. Evacuating an entire colony is expensive. Surely some risk is acceptable to avoid such costs. No, Byung-ho said firmly. This is why we left the council. You debate acceptable casualty rates. You calculate how many lives are worth the cost of saving them. We do not. Every human life matters. Every single one. We spend whatever it takes to reach 0 casualties. The observer was quiet for a moment. Is that why you would not help the Pelraxians? Because you value only human lives? No, Byung-ho said. We value all lives, but we are not responsible for protecting people who will not protect themselves. The Pelraxians trusted the Council to save them. The Council failed. That is not our fault. We warned everyone this would happen. Back at the Galactic Council, Minister Daun appeared on every screen in the galaxy. She was broadcasting from Earth, from the human government headquarters. Her message was simple and direct. People of the galaxy, she said. Her voice was cold and clear. Humanity has drawn a border. Today, the Rekthul crossed that border. They believed our refusal to participate in council politics meant we were weak. They were wrong. Images of the battle appeared on the screens. 43 seconds of total destruction. This is the only warning the galaxy will receive. We will not participate in your wars. We will not join your politics. We will not engage in your diplomacy, but we will defend what is ours with absolute force. She paused, looking directly into the camera. To any species considering testing our resolve, we gave the Rekthul 10 seconds to leave. We counted down clearly. They had every opportunity to avoid destruction. They chose to ignore our warning. We will not count to 10 again. The next species to cross into human space without permission will be destroyed immediately. This is not a threat. It is a promise. The transmission ended. No questions were taken. No discussion was offered. It was a statement of fact. Jiwan sat in her quarters watching the broadcast again. She was beginning to understand something about humans that she had missed in all her years of study. Humans were not violent by nature. They were protective. They would not fight your battles for you. But if you threatened them, they would end you without hesitation or mercy. She pulled up data on human military capabilities. For years she had known humans had strong weapons, but she had not understood how strong. The weapons used against the Rekthul were beyond anything in the Council's arsenal. Kinetic kill vehicles, quantum phase missiles, electromagnetic cascades, technology that should not exist yet. How long had humans possessed these weapons? Why had they never used them in Council wars? The answer came to her slowly. Humans had been holding back. For 180 years, they had been fighting with only a fraction of their true power. They had restricted themselves to weapons the Council deemed acceptable. Now the restrictions were gone. Now the galaxy was seeing what humans could really do when they stopped holding back. At the Rekthul homeworld, the High Command received Commander Vorg's final transmission. It had been sent in the last seconds before his ship was destroyed. His voice was filled with fear. The humans are not what we thought. They are not weak. They are not passive. They are predators who are pretending to be peaceful. Do not engage them. I repeat, do not engage the humans. The transmission ended there. The Rekthul High Command stared at the empty screen. They had sent a raiding force to test human defenses. That force was completely destroyed in less than 1 minute. No survivors. No prisoners. Just empty space where their ships had been. High Admiral Rekthul Marn, the supreme commander of all Rekthul forces, called an emergency meeting. The humans have humiliated us, he said. They destroyed our ships without taking a single casualty. This cannot stand. The Rekthul Empire does not retreat. We do not accept defeat. But sir, one of his advisors said, they destroyed 50 ships in less than 1 minute. What can we do against such power? We send everything, Marn said. We mobilize the entire battle fleet. 3,000 ships. We will strike at the heart of human space. We will attack their homeworld. Earth itself will burn. Then the galaxy will see that the Rekthul are not to be trifled with. The order went out. The entire Rekthul military began moving toward human space. It was the largest fleet ever assembled by any single species. 3,000 warships armed with the most powerful weapons the Rekthul possessed. The Galactic Council detected the movement. Speaker Vrelthos sent urgent messages to Earth. The Rekthul are coming with their entire fleet. Surely now you will negotiate. Surely now you will accept Council support. The response from Earth was brief. Minister Da Yun sent a single word. No. The Council realized with growing horror that humanity was willing to face annihilation rather than return to galactic politics. They had drawn their line and they would die defending it. The question was, could they survive what was coming? Jiwan's shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. She had never been to the human homeworld before. Few aliens had been invited in the past year since humanity withdrew from Council affairs. But she had requested an audience and, surprisingly, Premier Sang-hoon had agreed to see her. The shuttle landed in Geneva, in what used to be called Switzerland. This was where the human government had its headquarters, deep beneath the mountains in a bunker that could survive almost anything. Jiwan was escorted through security checkpoints and long corridors until she reached a simple office. Premier Sang-hoon was an old man with gray hair and kind eyes. He did not look like a leader who was about to face an invasion of 3,000 warships. He looked like someone's grandfather. He gestured for Jiwan to sit. Thank you for seeing me, Ji-won said. I know you must be very busy with the Rekthul fleet approaching. Sang-hoon smiled slightly. We have time. The Rekthul fleet will not arrive for another 6 hours, and we are prepared. But I do not think you came here to discuss military matters. You want to understand why we are doing this? Yes, Ji-won said. I have studied your species for years. I thought I understood you. But this decision to withdraw from the council, to refuse all help, even when facing destruction, I cannot understand it. Sang-hoon stood and walked to a wall covered in displays. He touched a control and images appeared. Let me show you something, he said. This is human history. The images showed wars. Terrible wars where millions died, cities burning, soldiers fighting in mud and blood. This was World War II, Sang-hoon said. 60 million humans died because we waited too long to act against a threat. We talked and negotiated while evil grew stronger. The images changed. This was the Cold War. Two great powers aimed weapons at each other for 50 years. They talked and talked, always on the edge of destroying everything. The talking saved us, but it also trapped us in fear. More images. The climate wars, the water conflicts, the gene wars. Each time humans learned the same lesson. Too much talking leads to disaster. Too much fighting leads to disaster. The balance is hard to find. Sang-hoon turned to face Ji-won. When we joined the Galactic Council, we hoped to find species who had learned this balance. Instead, we found a council that had perfected endless debate. They talk while problems grow. They form committees while threats multiply. They write reports while people die. But talking is important, Ji-won said. Diplomacy saves lives. Sometimes, Sang-hoon agreed. But not always. Sometimes talking just delays the inevitable. Sometimes action is needed, not discussion. The council has forgotten this. They think talking is always the answer. We know better. He sat down again, looking tired. We cannot participate in a system that we believe will lead to our extinction. The council's endless debates will get us killed one day. So we left. We will handle our own problems our own way. Even if it means standing alone against 3,000 ships? Ji-won asked. Yes, Sang-hoon said simply. Because we are not really alone. Come with me. I want to show you something else. They took an elevator deep underground. When the doors opened, Ji-won found herself in an enormous control center. Hundreds of humans worked at stations, monitoring displays that showed the entire Sol system. And in orbit around Earth, around Mars, around Jupiter and Saturn, were weapons. Thousands of weapons platforms, each one larger than most spaceships. Dr. Young-mi approached them. She was the chief scientist of the Sol Defense Initiative. She was younger than the premier, but had the same calm confidence. Welcome to the grid, she said to Ji-won. This is what humanity has been building for the past 180 years. Ji-won stared at the displays. I do not understand. These weapons, this technology, it is far beyond anything in the Council's arsenal. How long have you had this? Since the beginning, Young-mi said. We started building the Sol defense grid the day we joined the Council. We knew that one day the talking would stop working. When that day came, we would have only ourselves to depend on. But why did you never use these weapons in council wars? Ji-won asked. You could have ended conflicts quickly. You could have saved millions of lives. Because these weapons are not for council wars, Young-mi said. These weapons are for existential threats, for enemies who want to destroy us completely. The council kept asking us to use more and more force in their conflicts. We refused. We knew that if we showed our full strength, they would expect us to use it every time they had a problem. She pointed at the displays showing the approaching Rekthul fleet. The Rekthul are an existential threat. They are coming to destroy Earth, to kill every human in Sol system. This is what these weapons were built for. Ji-won felt cold fear running through her. You are going to destroy the entire fleet. We are going to give them one chance to leave, Young-mi said. Admiral Hyo-jin will contact them when they reach the edge of our system. She will offer them the opportunity to turn back. If they refuse, yes, we will destroy them all. 3,000 ships, Ji-won whispered. Hundreds of thousands of lives. They chose to come here, Sang-hoon said quietly. They chose to threaten us. We did not start this war, but we will finish it. On the main display, the Rekthul fleet appeared at the edge of Sol system. They had jumped in using their faster-than-light drives. 3,000 massive warships arranged in attack formation. High Admiral Rekthul Marn stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident and proud. Admiral Hyo-jin's face appeared on his screen. Hi, Admiral Marn, she said. You have entered Sol System without permission. This is your only warning. Leave now and we will consider this matter closed. Continue your approach and your entire fleet will be destroyed. Marn laughed. You think you can face 3,000 ships? You are fools. The Rekthul Empire will crush your pathetic defenses and burn your world. This is what happens to species who show weakness. Hyojin's expression did not change. We showed restraint, not weakness. The Council taught us to be civilized. They taught us to talk before fighting. They taught us to negotiate. But they forgot to ask if we wanted to learn those lessons. We learned them anyway for 180 years. Now class is over. You are insane, Marn said. You cannot win this battle. You are correct, Hyojin said. This will not be a battle. A battle requires both sides to fight. You will not have time to fight. You will only have time to die. I am giving you 60 seconds to begin retreating. Use them wisely. The transmission ended. Marn stared at the empty screen, fury building inside him. All ships advance at full speed. Weapons free. Destroy everything. The Rekthul fleet moved forward. In the control center beneath Geneva, Jiwon watched the displays. Young Mi stood at her station, her hands moving across controls. Activating the grid, she said calmly. All weapons online. Targeting solutions locked, engaging. Space around Sol System came alive with light. Thousands of weapons platforms that had been invisible suddenly appeared. They had been using cloaking technology, hiding in plain sight. Now they revealed themselves and opened fire. The weapons were like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Singularity mines created tiny black holes that swallowed ships whole. Relativistic kill missiles moved so fast they were impossible to track. Planet cracker torpedoes hit with the force of dying stars. Quantum phase beams passed through shields and armor, tearing ships apart from the inside. In the first minute, 400 Rekthul ships were destroyed. Marn watched in horror as his mighty fleet began to disintegrate. Retreat, he shouted. All ships retreat. But there was no retreating. The human weapons were too fast, too precise, too overwhelming. Ships that tried to flee were destroyed just as quickly as those that tried to fight. The grid covered the entire system. There was nowhere to run. Marn's flagship took a direct hit. Systems failed. The ship began breaking apart. He managed to send one final message to the Rekthul homeworld. Do not engage the humans. They are not what we thought. They are not weak. They are not primitive. They are something else. Something we cannot fight. The transmission ended as his ship exploded. In the control center, Jiwon watched the battle unfold with tears in her eyes. She finally understood. Humanity had not refused diplomacy because they were stubborn. They refused it because they had evolved beyond needing it. They had built themselves into something the galaxy had never seen, a species that needed nothing from anyone else. Part 5, the Battle of Sol, lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Rekthul fleet was gone. All 3,000 ships were destroyed, disabled, or captured. The human casualties were exactly 0. Not a single human ship was damaged. Not a single human life was lost. Jiwon stood on the bridge of Admiral Hyojin's flagship, looking out at the debris field that stretched across space. Thousands of Rekthul escape pods floated among the wreckage. Human ships were collecting them, taking prisoners, providing medical care. Even in victory, humans followed their rules. Could you have prevented this war? Jiwon asked Hyojin. If humanity had stayed in the council, could all these deaths have been avoided? Hyojin looked at her with tired eyes. We tried to prevent it for 30 years. We proposed peace treaties. We offered compromises. We warned the council that the Rekthul were building toward war. The council rejected everything we suggested. They called us paranoid and aggressive, so we stopped trying to save people who would not save themselves. But so many died, Jiwon said. Yes, Hyojin agreed. The Pelraxians died because they trusted the council to protect them. The Rekthul died because they mistook our restraint for weakness. Both sides made mistakes. We did not make those mistakes for them. News of the battle spread across the galaxy in hours. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. Species that had been planning expansion suddenly became peaceful. Aggressive empires requested non-aggression pacts with humanity. Pirates and raiders fled from anywhere near human space. The Rekthul Empire itself surrendered. Not to the Galactic Council, but directly to humanity. The new Rekthul government sent ambassadors to Earth begging for mercy. They offered reparations, territory, complete disarmament, anything humanity wanted. Minister Daun met with them in a simple conference room on Earth. The Rekthul ambassadors were expecting harsh terms. Instead, Daun handed them a single document. "This is a peace treaty," she said. "It requires you to withdraw from all conquered territories. It requires you to compensate the Pelraxians for damages. It requires you to reduce your military to defensive levels only. If you agree to these terms, humanity will consider the war over." The lead Rekthul ambassador read the document with confusion. "This is all? You do not demand tribute? You do not take our worlds?" "We do not want your worlds," Daun said. "We want you to stop threatening others. That is all. Sign the treaty and leave us alone. That is the only price for peace." The treaty was signed within an hour. The Rekthul Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for generations, became peaceful overnight. Not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. At the Galactic Council, chaos of a different kind was unfolding. Species were withdrawing from council membership. They wanted to negotiate directly with humanity instead. Why participate in a council that took months to make decisions when you could talk directly to humans and get answers in hours? Speaker Vrelthos watched his council fall apart. In 1 week, 30 species had withdrawn. More were preparing to leave. The council that had stood for thousands of years was collapsing. He called an emergency session. Ambassador Te Yang attended. It was his first appearance at the council since the crisis began. Vrelthos addressed him directly. "You have destroyed us," Vrelthos said. "The council is dying. Species are leaving to seek your protection. Are you satisfied now? Have you proven your point?" Te Yang stood slowly. "We proved nothing. We simply stopped pretending that talking prevents wars. The council has 2 choices now. You can continue as you always have, becoming less relevant every day. Or you can change. Change how?" Vrelthos asked. "Stop talking so much and start acting more," Te Yang said. "Create a real defensive alliance, not a debate society. Make decisions in hours, not months. Understand that some problems cannot be negotiated away. Learn to use force when necessary, not just when it is too late." "And if we do this, will humanity return to the council?" "No," Te Yang said. "We will never return to the council. But we are offering something else. It is called the Treaty of Earth." He displayed the treaty terms on the main screen. They were simple. Humanity would maintain diplomatic relations on human terms. No embassies. No councils. No endless committees. Instead, direct communication between leaders when necessary. Crisis response within hours. Absolute respect for human autonomy. In exchange, humanity offered something valuable. They would share defensive technology with species who proved they could use it responsibly. Not weapons for conquest, but tools for protection. "We will not fight your wars," Te Yang said, "but we will teach you how to win your own. We will show you how to protect yourselves. The galaxy must learn to stand without leaning on us." Minister Daun appeared on the screen from Earth. "This is not charity," she said. "This is investment. A strong galaxy is a stable galaxy. We would rather have capable neighbors than dependent ones. We would rather teach you to fish than give you fish forever." The council debated the treaty for 3 days. In the end, they accepted it. What choice did they have? The alternative was irrelevance. The Treaty of Earth changed the galaxy. The Galactic Council reformed itself. Debates became discussions. Committees became task forces. Decisions that once took months now took days. Species learned to solve their own problems instead of waiting for someone else to solve them. Human technology began spreading to other species. Not weapons of mass destruction, but defensive shields, better sensors, faster communication systems, medical technology. Each species that received this technology had to prove they would use it to protect, not to conquer. Wars did not end. Conflicts still happened, but they were shorter now, more decisive. Species fought their own battles and made their own peace. The galaxy became more chaotic, but also more free. Ambassador Te Yang resigned from his position and returned to Earth. Before he left Council space, Jiwan asked to meet with him one final time. They met in a quiet observation deck looking out at the stars. "I understand now," Jiwan said. "You refused diplomacy because the Council's diplomacy had become meaningless. Just words without action, theater without substance." "Yes," Te Yang said. "True diplomacy only works between equals who respect each other's capacity for violence. The Council saw us as barbarians with guns. They wanted to use our guns while condemning us for having them. That is not diplomacy. That is exploitation. What you did was cruel," Jiwan said. "Watching the Pelraxians die. refusing to help until it was too late. Yes, Taeyang agreed. It was cruel. But sometimes cruelty in the short term prevents greater suffering in the long term. If we had saved the Pelraxians, the Council would have learned nothing. They would have continued their endless debates while problems grew worse. We forced them to change by making them face consequences. He turned to look at her. You think we panicked the Council by refusing to talk? That is not what happened. We panicked the Council by proving we never needed them. For 180 years they thought they were teaching us to be civilized. We were really just being patient, waiting to see if they would learn. They did not. So we left. And now? Jiwan asked. What happens now? Now the galaxy grows up, Taeyang said. Species learn to stand on their own. Problems get solved quickly instead of being debated to death. The Council becomes useful instead of symbolic. And humanity watches from a distance, ready to help if asked, but never again doing the work that others should do for themselves. 50 years passed. The galaxy changed completely in that time. Wars still happened, but they were fought and won quickly. Species that once depended on the Council learned to depend on themselves. The Council itself became efficient and effective, making decisions with speed and wisdom. Humanity remained outside the Council, watching from their distant colonies. They traded with everyone but joined with no one. They helped when asked but never interfered without invitation. They became exactly what they wanted to be, independent, respected, and left alone. Premier Sang-hoon was an old man now, living in retirement on Earth. Jiwan visited him one last time before she died. She had become Speaker of the Council after Vrelthos retired. She had led the Reformed Council for 20 years. Do you regret your choice? She asked him. To withdraw from the galaxy? Sang-hoon smiled. Every day I regret the necessity, but I never regret the choice. We gave the galaxy a gift. We forced it to grow up. Sometimes the best way to help someone is to stop helping them. The galaxy thanks you, Jiwan said, even if it took years to understand why. The galaxy does not need to thank us, Sang-hoon said. It just needs to remember the lesson. Silence is not weakness. It is the sound of someone who has nothing left to prove. And in the centuries that followed, the galaxy did remember. They remembered the species that refused to talk, not because they could not, but because they had learned when words were not enough. They remembered humanity, the species that taught the galaxy its hardest lesson. Sometimes the most diplomatic thing you can do is walk away.